If you want to see what true leadership looks like, take a look at this from US Florida Governor Ron DeSantis telling those around him to get rid of their masks.
You not have to wear those masks. I mean, please take them off. Honestly, it's not doing anything, and we got to stop with this COVID theater. So if you want to wear it, fine, but this is ridiculous.
It feels like a moment in the conversation, as was this. Do you recognise that guy? In the summer of 2020, one afternoon at 4:05 p.m. on the radio, I famously chopped up a mask during my opening monologue. The video went viral and was ultimately watched by 10 million people across all platforms. Prior to the mask mandates, we'd had weeks of top government experts, including Jenny Harries, Jonathan Van Tam and Anthony Fauci, all saying you don't need to wear a mask. In the case of Dr. Harries, she argued they could make matters worse. Face masks could increase risk of infection, medical chief warns. She also said the evidence on masks was not strong in either direction, hardly a ringing endorsement. Sadly, there was a flip, a U-turn effectively, and the mandate came in, ignoring 4 decades of research into face coverings, showing scant evidence that they could stop the spread of a seasonal respiratory virus. So what changed? Well, covering our faces was, in my view, about behaviour, not science. It was about reminding everyone that we're in a pandemic, and it was about governments and corporations being seen to do something. That famous COVID theatre. And of course, mask wearing on a grand scale became a symbol of compliance. I'm wearing a mask. I'm doing what I'm told. I've covered my face. I'm obedient. I'm your servant. I am your slave. I personally think they're evil. I'm horrified that people still walk the streets in fresh air, clad in these ghoulish devices. In my view, they are the devil's work. How unsurprising, therefore, that mask wearing is so commonplace in the hateful dictatorship of China. I can't believe that along with lockdowns and social control, that we've imported those methods, those values and those optics to our own shores. Now, I've always said that if you want to wear a mask, knock yourself out. Wear 3 if you like. Perhaps it will make you a nicer person. But forgive us terrible people who would quite like the maximum amount of available oxygen to enter our lungs every 5 seconds and not breathe back in what's just come out. I'm so sorry. I hope that doesn't make me a terrible person or a diva. The masks, of course, have become political, dividing the population between those who support lockdowns and other unprecedented government interventions, and those who value a bit of bodily autonomy and the desire to choose. You know, freedom. Remember that? Except that freedom has become a 4-letter word. And of course, freedom should involve the right to wear or not wear a mask. But I'm now starting to think that the government should actively discourage mask wearing. Some people may feel reassured by them, and if so, no problem. Although it fills my heart with joy to see people in these so-called vulnerable groups going about their lives without masks. There are so many battle-axe old ladies in my local charity shop, perusing the aisles, looking for bargains, mask-free. Turns out they trust the vaccine, they trust their immune systems, and perhaps they've read the data on masks. Praise the Lord. So I believe, for all the propaganda that we've had to actually wear masks, it should now go the other way, to phase them out. I've already thought of a catchphrase. Save lives, don't wear a mask. How so? Well, retired NHS consultant, a clinical psychologist, Dr. Gary Sidley, has told me on this show that face masks are not good for mental health. They diminish human interaction. We can't speak to each other properly, hear each other properly, or see facial expressions. So they strip the joy out of life. They impair social connections and they diminish our humanity. Don't take my word for it. We'll take a look at this tweet from NHS GP Renee Hundekamp about masks in her surgery. I hate masks with a vengeance, says this top doctor. They quite literally turn our society into a faceless dystopia. She's so right. She said, today I sat with a tearful suicidal teenager talking through what was going on with a mask on. A mask I don't need. I don't have COVID. She repeatedly said pardon, and it was so hard to communicate with her compassionately behind the mask. It has to end. GPs need to unmask now. And how right she is. People are walking around like zombies. It's like the apocalypse, isn't it? Please don't tell me that these masks are optimum for human health. I'd love to meet the medic who can convince me that covering your airways for prolonged periods of time isn't ultimately harmful. Back to me, please, Ross. I suspect that there are 2 holes in our nose and 1 big hole in our mouth for a reason. What about the environmental impact of these face coverings? These hellish surgical masks, for example, so discredited they're not even accepted in Austria or Germany, are not recyclable, taking hundreds of years to degrade in the ground, polluting the earth as they do it, and forming a plastic mountain in the sea. Ultimately, that plastic impacts sea life and goes into fish, the fish that we then eat. So these wonderful face masks that make you such a nice person enter the human chain and slowly poison all of us. Well done, everyone. Now, let me say I'm a very good-looking guy, so I want to be back on TV. Come on, Ross, let's get a camera back on me. Oh, there you go. Let's talk about the economy. Luke Johnson, you saw him before you saw me. And Luke Johnson told me on this programme that face coverings create a mood of gloom and pessimism. There he is. He's been on the show. He said that actually masks dampen economic activity. Have you tried buying clothes with a face mask? It's a waste of time. So they're likely to have an economic impact too. Anything that impedes human interaction and behaviour will impact the economy. Why does that matter? Well, because a healthy economy pays for all of the things that we rightly expect. Investment in the NHS, schools, welfare, housing, infrastructure, police. Oh, and as the last few days may have reminded you, we kind of need a military too. Cloth masks are no better, of course, with the Mail reporting this week that they allow through 90% of particles. So why pick this fight now, with mask mandates gone? Because I'm certain, like boomerangs, malaria and Arnold Schwarzenegger, they'll be back. Like lockdowns, masks are always going to be the mechanism by which the state exerts control over us. They will be the foot in the door, the supposedly low-level measure that could ultimately take us towards tougher restrictions. If they'll cover your face and even vaccinate you against your will, which is what vaccine mandates in certain professions are, the sky is the limit. Your face and mine are sovereign territory. It should belong to us and no one else. Masks no doubt help criminals too. What hope do cops have identifying an attacker on CCTV with someone wearing a mask and a hat? And what about the science? Dr. Colin Axon, former SAGE advisor, told me on this programme that we should not wear masks. He advised against them. He said the particles of the virus are between 1,000 and 5,000 times smaller than the holes in a mask. Still not convinced? Well, let me pose a simple question. You know about Ebola, that terrible virus with a fatality rate of up to 90%, according to the WHO. If Ebola was airborne, would you feel protected by a mask? I rest my case. Former SAGE advisor, Colin Axon has said it. All the scientists have pointed out this issue. So if you don't get rid of masks, you leave the door open for all of the other madness. COVID theatre is one expression. COVID bollocks is another. So my words today are the same as they were in that heady summer of 2020. If you want to save lives and get the country back on track, the only option is to get back to normal. The first step in achieving that is to get rid of them. What am I talking about? These god-awful, wretched, damned, uncomfortable, scientifically empty, useless masks. Right? They've got to go. This isn't exactly Blue Peter, is it? But please, don't make me eat my words.